So welcome back to the podcast. We're getting going again now every fortnight. And this podcast is a special one because it's basically a kind of a recap on my own prep, what's gone on so far. And I suppose linking up with the YouTube series, Prep the Series, and giving a bit of insight into my own prep, and Billy, who's the guest today, who's my own coach, and kind of going through what's involved, what we're looking to do, and kind of looking at our own kind of beliefs on training, on prep, on getting shredded, and on bodybuilding as a whole. So Billy, do you want to give a quick introduction as to who you are, what you do, and what you're about?
So my name is Billy Bourne. I was overall world champion NABBA back in 2006, 2005. First Irishman to ever place at the Worlds. First Irishman to get a pro card via NABBA. And I actually got a second pro card through the PDA, which was a federation developed by Wayne DeMita, former IFBB. I think he was world president, at some point. Yep. Yeah. So I get lots of accolades for my endeavors in bodybuilding, but I was also a former world champion and all-round weightlifting as well. 3 times world champion, multi-world record holder. So a lot of people looked for me for advice over the years and contest prep, and looking at the things I was doing and seeing if I can integrate that into their workouts and their diet strategies over the years. And I've had a lot of success with my people. So basically that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, I think when, like, I suppose your reputation is a really good one, because I think, like, you know, across all bodybuilding circles, like if your name's brought up, it's always in, you know, really good light. Like I've never actually met anyone with a bad word about you. That's the truth, which is rare in bodybuilding. So that's rare.
Maybe because they know you know me really well.
Maybe yeah. Yeah, this isn't our first rodeo, obviously, together. So for anyone who's kind of new to this and kind of just getting used to what's going on here with this series, essentially myself and Billy have done a prep before. We've prepped in 2019 for a muscle contest and for the RBBF Spring Classic, which we won both for the weight classes, and then obviously getting into overalls for both as well. That time it was 80 kilo weight class, which was I won't even
squeeze.
That was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. Absolutely. When people ask me what class I did, and I tell them, I always like shudder and look back, like in my mind, kind of go back to I actually did make that weight. And obviously, you know, it was.
But I promised you at the start that we would make it, and we made it.
You did, yeah. You promised, yeah.
Yep. And you give me complete trust, and you listened to everything I said to the letter, and you made it.
Yeah, and that was the thing too, is I suppose like having a coach there and having someone, you know, in your corner when, like, I think the majority of people in that situation, like if they're doing it on their own, like the stress would be incredibly high, and it could either make you or break you. And I think for most people, it would probably break them. And you know, trying to do it solo, that'd be very, very difficult. Yeah, like again to do
interesting story. Interesting story. So in the weeks leading in to both them competitions, I was asked what weight category I was trying to get you into, and I said, no problem, 80 kilos. And people were like, no way he's going to make 80 kilos, not in his wildest dreams. And I said, I'll tell you, because I think that only 2 weeks out we were still sitting at 85.5 kilo.
Yeah.
So that left us almost 12 pound to make. And say the 2 weeks, and you were running super lean at that point.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, in my heart of hearts, I didn't say this. I was panicking slightly. I really was. But I knew I have lots of tricks and techniques from trying to make weight for powerlifting competitions or my weightlifting back in the day, and I knew I could get you down. My only fear was following you back up in such a short period of time from the weigh until the next day.
Yeah,
but you were super looking. You really were.
And again, 85 kg the next day, 85 kilos dry as bone, and it just goes to show you like that. It's funny when people bring up like weight and body weight and whatever, and like it means nothing, but it's amazing how when you look at when it's done right, like you end up like being on stage at 85 completely filled out, but even drier than you were the day before. you know, if it's done correctly, and then you end up being obviously really, really big in that weight class. And obviously we did it twice, and obviously we had COVID and all that, and lockdowns, and I'm aware we're on YouTube, so I'm not going to talk too much about that word or use that word too often. But we had all that in between, so that kind of put a kibosh on things. And we're now in 2021, and shows are back. Things are getting back to normal a little bit, and the show has been pushed out. The muscle contest has been pushed out to December 4th in Ennis, and obviously it's towards the end of the year. So I think a lot in this country anyway, a lot of the shows just got pushed so far. But there are still other shows coming up to that show, and there's one or two more shows around Europe, but it kind of becomes a little bit more limited as you go towards, you know, the very tail end of the year. So the main obviously thing we have in mind is muscle contest, and it's it's under 90 kilos this year for sure.
There's a lot of breathing space.
And I think, yeah, exactly. And I think even when people go like, oh, you're worried about like not being at like 90 kilos, like I probably won't be 90 kilos in the button on like, or 89.999 on the weighing scales, but I will look every bit of 90 kilos. So that's, you know, like I would rather come in with a better package, a little bit heavier, and give a little bit of room in the class than like literally eat a lot of muscle to get under 80s again. And I think
that was never the plan from when we left Irish Muscle Contest anyway.
Yeah, always planned to go up. It was always to go up. Yeah,
we did always plan to go up, but with the contest getting pushed back later in the year, you had a lot on. Your house moved, getting your business really rock and rolling through COVID. Yeah. So we're not on the back foot, but we're not super ahead where I would want it to be.
Yeah.
So
I think like for most people as well, like, you know, there's there's a lot of factors that got in the way, which is just life, which meant, you know, not the ideal situation in an off season. And obviously, if I took the situation I'm in now, which is I've since moved from Sligo down to Limerick, working online full time. So basically, I can kind of dictate my day really well. I can recover. I can sleep 8 hours, 9 hours a night if I need to, as opposed to 5, 6 hours. It's just a very different flow of the day. And, you know, like I'm living more of like the ideal bodybuilding job now, whereas in the past, even though, you know, being a one-to-one trainer and all that kind of stuff, it seems like the ideal thing. But when you're running a business of scale, and doing the one-to-one and just running all day and on your feet all day, and just having a lot of things to manage, it's a bit trickier. Now, there's people out there with way harder situations that are, you know, working manual labor jobs, et cetera, and that is incredibly difficult to do. So I suppose even though the off season wasn't you know, perfect in like how we went about it, I suppose now the situation is the like environment and all that is ideal. So, you know, make the most of it now. And as I was saying to you there, the last few weeks, this is one of those preps already where like I can see it being very different. And I've actually I've talked to Tommy Staunton about this as well in the past. And it's like, in an ideal world, you are actually, you know, you're actually not doing the same thing every year. Like one prep to the next won't be.
You really shouldn't be doing the same thing every year.
No, you shouldn't.
If you're gaining muscle, you have a different metabolic response.
Yeah.
Maybe your strength is increased and your energy output's massively increased. So like, you know, if you go back into, if you're dieting, your diet should never reflect the same as it was the previous year or previous contest. Yeah. You know,
so, like I think if people are thinking that they can write this stuff down in a prep, log it, like, which I do every year. But if I go back, I have 7 or 8 years, I think 8 years of preps logged, and none of them are the same. But even the prep I did before we worked together, Billy, that was very, very different, of course. And obviously this time it's different again. But the one thing I will say about this prep is that because probably stress is lower and recovery is better, and I suppose, you know, I have more muscle mass as well than the last time. Like body fat's just going away nice, lovely, going away, and training is just going to the roof. Like the last few weeks, training is like amazing. Obviously now as well, I'm like getting physio done, I'm getting stuff done, this pec was injured, which was causing issues at the back, and that was kind of stopping me being able to open up my back fully and kind of get into poses properly. So that's kind of getting fixed now. It'll be, it's almost fully fixed actually after that one treatment last night. But I suppose looking after those things is paramount now, going forward. And we always learn lessons. Like you have to take, there was lessons in the last prep that we did. There was lessons in the off season that we did. And I suppose it is like, that's what you want, is you want that progression. You want to be able to say, right, this time I have the luxury of X, Y, Z, which I didn't have before. So the luxury of more muscle, the luxury of better recovery, and hopefully we'll grow some muscle while we're getting leaner. That's the goal.
Grow into the show.
Yeah.
The old myth that says can't happen. It depends on the situation. That definitely can.
It's very case by case, and it depends on a lot of factors. But I've seen it happen. I know for a fact it's not like this unicorn. I've seen it firsthand with guys. I've seen it with myself. I've seen it. So
I think the majority of the time accounting for that, but going into that a little bit, it's where the guys start dieting for shows and they haven't done a proper off season. So all of a sudden their diets come really, really good, and they are giving themselves like maximizing recovery. So they do tend to grow on the show.
Yeah.
They
tick the boxes, They start ticking the boxes and they go, oh shit, well, they weren't ticking the boxes in the off season. And now by simply just doing that, they're growing, which they could have been doing, when they had more calories.
And I think maybe this time around that is the case for you too, given the stress that you're under prior to, shifting business and moving house, and the pedal was off in the gym for a short period of time. Mm-hmm. And now we're maximizing, like I said to you already, we really want to maximize the recovery factors, like, so getting your rest and not overtraining. I don't think we need to overtrain, but pedal to the metal still in the gym. Yeah. So like we're limiting our days in the gym. We're down to like 5 days max.
Yeah.
And cardio is even still at a minimum.
Yeah, so, cardio is breathe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Our calories is high.
Yep.
So after this week, we're going to review our carb intake and our cycling carbs from this weekend. So I'm sort of excited. Like I'm, yoo-hoo.
Do you think that's one thing actually I want to kind of touch on for guys who are kind of newer to competing or even, people who are competing a while, is that there's this notion, I think, that you need to constantly be changing everything rather than like letting things actually do their job. So like giving things a chance to work. I think people are very, very quick. I've just found in general over the years that people are very, very quick. They get very anxious that they have to kind of throw everything at once rather than like implement one thing and be very steady at a time and let one thing work before you change one other thing.
Well, like, listen, our conversation week on week, what have we changed? Nothing the last 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Not a tap. Yeah. Yet, as soon as we start to see progress has slowed down a little this week.
Yeah.
But to say, like, we haven't done any real fat tests or really caliber tests, which I've asked to get done. So we're going by the mirror and our performance in the gym. So performance is still rising. Yeah. Or how we look is changing. And I'm still a little bit hesitant to change everything. So week on week, we were doing a little drop in calories.
Yeah.
Calories drop down. We'll look how we look in the mirror. Is performance still increasing? Will we change calories this week?
Yeah.
Have we changed? No, there's just minute changes. A lot of people change. I'm going to increase my water. I'm going to do extra cardio this week. I'm going to pull back on the calories. But yet they'll get another week by and they're like, what do I do this week? Yeah. Or what do I do the week after? And all of a sudden they come into a roadblock. Their body isn't changing. They're getting stressed out.
Yeah.
And they're like, where do I go from here? They've cut off all the avenues very, very fast. Yeah. Maybe, and they could be 6 and 7 weeks started from the show. And where do they go next?
Boost.
They might be looking at for one chemical intervention to try and push things along, and that's not the case. That's not where you need to be going. You need to be looking at a proper game plan, and that's where like somebody like yourself, Ian, or me looking in from the outside and being able to give like measured changes over a period of time to bring them results back.
Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest things that I've just seen in general. And like things have gotten better over the last few years, the standard of coaching has got better. People have gotten more informed. But that's one of the big issues. One of the other things that I see, like, you know, just in general, we won't hark on it too much, but we'll use the word supplements, like, you know, and it's people's like quickness to, you know, like you just said there, they run out of options, or their coach runs out of options, or their coach is using that as a crutch, and making up for, you know, like, you know, just doing the simple things right, and kind of overplaying that card, which obviously, you know, has like massive implications, short term and long term as well. But that's kind of, we won't touch on that too much. We're on YouTube, but that's one of the areas as well, like with prep people, that I think it's the low hanging fruit, and so sometimes you don't just
that's human. You're only human to do that too. You're going to reach for the most easy route, aren't we? No,
yeah, of course.
The majority of people are lazy. You know, they're lazy training and their approach to diets, and they're going to take the most easy option. You know, for years, like not just in bodybuilding, but in like even the fashion industry, people or models would have reached for like DNP and that kind of stuff. You know, for quick fixes. And sure, look, what that led to a lot of deaths. You know, get your diet right, get your training right, get your recovery right. Recovery is optimal for your performance.
Yeah.
If you're training better and the gym, you're expending more calories. More calories is energy expenditure, and you're on the road to success. Get the basics right.
Yeah. And like, just touched on that as well. One thing that we've kind of seen recently as well, the last few weeks, is that there's been a lot of deaths that are linked back to diuretic use and linked back to that whole area, as far as like coming right up to shows, and some crazy protocols with like pharmaceutical diuretics. And again, that's one of those other areas when people are like, you know, even bring it up in conversation, it's just like, it's you're chancing. Like, what people need to realize too is that you're looking for, or your coach or whoever is looking for 1%, to get that 1%, but they risk 10, 15, 20% on the day. And I think that's a huge thing if you're competing, to realize that it's all a gamble. And if you use powerful things like, like pharmaceutical diuretics, if you use a powerful tool like that, it can bite you in the ass very, 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 very easily. And so if more people just realize that, that's huge.
And in more cases than often, that is the case. There's very few people that have used them successfully and repeatedly. I've stories in the past. I've used diuretics and got great success, but then the next show, maybe a very 2 weeks later, or in the same a year later, they tried the exact same protocol, followed the exact same diet, same approach, but yet they backfired completely.
Yeah,
they really are hit and miss. And on top of that, you might be successful, but then there's the health implications, wilder and use, and long-term effects afterwards. Kidney stress, that kind of stuff. So there's something to be, if you are going to go down that avenue, to be treated with respect, and it's a pseudoscience still for bodybuilding. The pro science. It's just educated guesses. So it's something that you're risking your life, unfortunately. For 1%.
And it's one of those areas where I think it's just not mentioned enough. And over the years, I've heard like horror stories, as I'm sure you have, of people doing crazy stuff at like a very amateur level, like super amateur competing. The stakes are not high, and people are taking Lasix and taking crazy stuff. And also as well, the duration, like, just consider this: you don't have a say in how long you can stave off water under your skin. It's very, very temporary. And your water balance is so temporary as well, that like you can't take powerful diuretics for days on end and hope that the result at the end will be good. It's a very, very temporary window. It's very, very small. So just if, for example, if a coach tells you 5 days out from your show, 6 days out from your show, start taking a really, really powerful, diuretic, question that. That is a long time to be playing with that. And really, it's only like, as we've kind of seen before, it's like really 2 or 3 days, max. It's really the last 48 hours, isn't it?
Even the much still pharmaceutical grade, but the much milder brand of diuretics.
Yeah.
Guys run them weeks out from shows.
Yes.
Girls run them weeks out for shows. And
for,
then
for better Instagram pictures.
Yep. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. Not even competing for like their photo shoots. This new fad the last lot of years of people getting into fantastic shape for photo shoots, and they're doing all crazy sorts of protocols.
Yeah. Even sodium, sure. Like, like people cutting out sodium, which is like, essential if you're training hard and you're doing a lot of cardio. Like sodium is so important, and they're trying to cut out their sodium completely for weeks before. Like, so when your cardio is the highest duration, your training is hard also as well, because you're so lean, water just goes through you. You don't retain very much water. So like sodium is your friend, right at the end. And if you don't change it at all, like, don't change it.
Here's a crazy story. A friend of mine just told me the other day, a couple getting ready for their wedding day, both of them going through a transformation. I'm running diuretics into their wedding day for their photo shoot.
Wow.
Crazy. And he was on a bender the night before his wedding, and then ran running diuretics.
They were shredded.
What the hell? No, they weren't. Far from it. But on a serious note, holy Christ.
Yeah. And like the other thing too is like, the simple fact, if you're weeks and weeks away from your show, simple tip, if you want to get really dry, just get shredded. Get absolutely shredded to pieces, and you will be dry.
Here's the thing, Ian. Majority of people can't do it.
Yeah.
And they can't do it through lack of knowledge or willpower. They can't do it. There's a lot of guys turned up, even you've seen it. We've all seen them over the years turned up, their friends and their family. Oh, you're ripped to the bone. And like we see the men, and they're like, there's folds of skin hanging over their briefs, and they're not prepared. They're just not prepared, but they really do believe in their heart that they've went through the process.
If I just cut the water, I'll be straight. If I just cut the water now, and then I look really good.
But while we smirk and laugh, they have had their journey, and they have made it. I would like to have like more time to go take a person by the hand, maybe 16 or 17 weeks out, and look at, and know if they are putting the effort in the gym, they haven't got a clue diet wise, and they're listening to their friends and their family. It would be nice to be able to go. Like he wants to do it, and he's got the heart to do it, but just hasn't got the know-how or the knowledge.
Yeah. Well, they're two different things, aren't they? Like, so one, you could have a lack of knowledge, and like, just that's fair enough. You don't have the knowledge base there. The other thing too is that there can be laziness, and laziness is knowing what you need to do and not doing it. And they're very different people. Like the one person who just doesn't know any better, they just don't know any better. The person who's experienced or who knows what they need to do, but they know deep down they're not doing that, and then they don't get the result on the day, and they say, well, like they get third or fourth, whatever, and they say like, I should have won. It's like, I always go back to, can you ask yourself, and for anyone competing, if you can ask yourself on the day of your show, honestly, look in the mirror and say, did I do absolutely everything I could possibly do to be my absolute best? And if you can answer yes, you've done incredibly well. Like, that's amazing. If you can honestly answer yes, that's amazing.
There's very few that could say that. That's including myself. Even like I had told you already when I got ready for the Worlds and won the overall Worlds.
Yeah.
That morning of the competition, I wasn't coming downstairs because I felt as if I hadn't dieted for the show. I just felt it as if I wasn't. I don't think I was body dysmorphic or anything like that. But I knew I had been very relaxed in my diet coming into the competition. And I had a different strategy. Although I turned out well on the day, good enough to win the show. But I knew in my heart that I could have done this or I could have done that better. And I was questioning my prep all the way in. And unlike these guys, I had very few people to turn to, for advice. I had obviously great people like Dave Fox, chipping in and giving his 10 cents worth and helping me out here and there. But like somebody actually taking me by the hand week on week, I didn't have that. I didn't. At the same time, probably didn't feel as if I needed it at the time. But in hindsight, now looking back, I probably should have.
Yes.
Given the gravity of the situation, like it's the biggest competition in the world for me then.
Yeah.
And I could have been better, but did I need to be better then if I won?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's another story.
Yeah.
But it's always with hindsight you look back at them things. Well, could have done this and could have done that.
Yeah.
But if people's arguing about their placings, I get what you're coming from there too. Like, that they do everything possible, and probably the answer 99 times out of 100, no, they don't.
No. Yeah, and they can honestly answer that. And I think, look, it could be that even if someone like cheats in their diet, or they go on a splurge, whatever, like things can be recovered, but only so much. And that's where, like, obviously having a coach and having someone there is important, because you have the accountability.
Yes.
That's why I always say, like, it is actually crucial if you're competing, even if you're advanced. Like, the top guys going into the Ireland Classic at the weekend, 9 out of 10 of those guys, like 90% of them, are coached, and they're the top level, like top guys in the world. They're coached, and it's like, they obviously know enough to coach other people. They're coaching amateur and pro competitors. They're coaching those guys, but it's really for accountability, support, and having.
I was going to say they mightn't have a proper coach, but they definitely do have somebody to be accountable to.
Yeah.
Whether it be their own partners or whatever, like, they definitely have that feedback.
Yeah, it's essential. And so, like, I suppose these shows this year, because they've been pushed out so far, the one really good thing about the competitions going on here in Ireland this year is that the standard is incredibly high, because people have been wanting to compete for so long.
Yes.
Lockdowns. You see the quality, the caliber of the guys and girls who are competing. It's incredibly high, and I would put a safe bet and say it's probably one of the high, like, the PCA this weekend coming. The standard is, like, that's one of the best standards I've ever seen. The guys going anyway. Who knows on the day? But from what I've seen, like, bodybuilding is like definitely on an upward trajectory. As I'm sure you'll have heard before, you'll hear guys from old school guys go, this, they don't have this, all this stuff. But I always flip that on its head and I go, well, there's more people competing. On average, the standard is higher. Also, I started going to shows in 2007, 2008. I started watching them in 2007. I first competed in 2008. I would only see maybe 3 or 4 guys in an entire show with peeled glutes. Now that's normal.
Yep.
That's normal now. If you
even
don't
girls
have
coming
glutes,
on, like, trains back, and girls are stepping on stage. Look at Emma Gormley.
Oh yeah.
Here and there. Oh man.
Yeah.
Peeled. Who's competing here recently? Oh Jesus, I can't mind. Denise O'Donovan.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Shredded.
Transformed. Oh, shredded.
Yeah.
She was a great figure girl anyway, but transformed her physique, and she's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing her PCA.
Yeah,
she's trained by Brian Ward.
Yeah. Who's did a great job. I had Brian on the podcast there. Brian is smashing it with guys he's prepping.
I haven't seen anybody that's not on the money. Really brilliant.
Incredible. Yeah. So fair dues, Brian, if you're listening. So yeah, I know the standard, like north and south, is just absolutely flying it, and it's good to see, because you now have one of the big things now is you have guys who are turning pro, guys who are pro level, like, coming through in all federations, in all categories. And I was actually watching an interview there, a live interview with Brian Bowman and Darren Farrell. And Darren first say it, like, he competed the first time, I think it was 2017 or 18, in Musk Contest, and didn't get a look in at all, like, very average, to be honest. And then, spends a year, goes away and dedicates his whole life to bodybuilding. And, then wins a pro card in Classic. And fast forward another year or 18 months later, he's, like, considered a top, like, he just got top 3 there, in the States, in a very strong pro category, and arguably could have won it. But you just look at that progression in a relatively short time, 2.5 years, how it can take off. But one of the things that kind of struck me when he was talking was that nobody believed he would ever do anything. Like, people would absolutely shit in him.
Hands up. I was one of them people.
Yeah.
I would see him at competitions, and he wasn't even competing, and he always had his Tupperware and his food, and he was always, it was following the bodybuilding lifestyle.
Yeah.
But looking at him physique wise then, and to where he is now, on night and day.
Yeah.
But I it's not right to say it, but I probably would write him off as, you'll never make it as a, no, you'll not make it as a top line bodybuilder. You'll definitely not make it as a pro. So hands up, I was totally wrong. I'll take it all back.
But it's just, I think that is, I think his story is incredibly inspiring. So
Yes.
if you don't know who Darren Farrell is, he's an IFBB Pro Classic competitor from Ireland, and he's one of the few pro guys that we have here in the IFBB. But he's really taken it by force now with the competition side of things. Whereas other pro bodybuilders, it's a mixed bag as far as who's actually gone out and been battle tested on pro stages. There's a couple of guys who have, a couple of guys who haven't yet and may never. But I think it's incredibly inspiring. And the one thing I'd always look at is that people will always tell you, like, it doesn't matter what it is. People will tell you that you won't do it. You can't do it. And it only serves to make you want to do it more.
Not everybody. Some people do, but that's hard.
Some people will encourage you, but some people, there's always going to be people who will just write you off no matter what you do. But once you're working away and being consistent, consistency catches up with everything. I always think.
And that goes back to Darren's story. Like, it's probably consistency is won the day with him.
100%.
100%.
He lives it. He absolutely lives it. And you see these guys coming through now, because obviously now you have social media, you can kind of get a look at what guys are doing day to day, week to week, and like success leaves clues. They're doing a lot of boring things very consistently and very well. And that's when people want to know, like, what's the secret? Like, what's the secret, Billy? What's this? What's the protocol? Like, the protocol is quite simple. It's never changed. It's just consistently doing the boring things over and over and over again, and being good at doing that.
Exactly. Back when I was younger and first came to bodybuilding, back to 1990. Back when black and white TV, we didn't have remotes for mobile phones, but it was consistency. I trained every day. I had my meals at the same time every day, same food every meal, and that was like for years. Didn't change my workouts, just had the exact same workouts. And then I came in, my first bodybuilding competition was November 91, and I competed at 10 stone 4 on stage, soaking wet. And then next competition was in June of 92, and I went to bed at the same time. I literally stopped what I was doing. If I was out with my friends, right, I'm away to bed. Bed at 11 o'clock, up at 8 a.m, having breakfast, same food. Competed in June 92 at 15.5.
Yeah.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep. And then I had qualified for the IFBB Worlds at 19 men's category, and then I competed then in November. I think but I was a lot more leaner. I was a lot leaner. I went down to 15.5. I really pushed hard in the diet.
Yeah.
And that was the Ulster Championships, IFBB Ulster Championships.
Yeah.
But it was consistency. I never changed nothing. I mean, eating times, if it was family breaks or whatever, I still had my eating and my training to do. Yeah. I had a plan in my head and a roadmap of where I wanted to go in bodybuilding, and I stuck to it. Nothing would deviate me from it. So and I was told back in 89, 90 that I would never make it as a bodybuilder. And it's just going back to what you're saying.
Yeah.
They told me that I couldn't do it. So I went out to prove everybody wrong that I would do it and could do it, And I did it.
You're regarded as one of the best bodybuilders to ever come out of Ireland. So, ever in history of this country.
But that's going to change. That's locked in history. But there's going to be better than me, And it's genetic product. There will be.
It's debatable. I still think, even to this day, with everything that's come on, like everybody who's come through, even through the test of time, I think the physique you had at the top end is still it's still considered, one of the top physiques.
It's funny now. It's only now that I'm almost 50 now, and I look back at my pictures and go, Hey, I was all right.
At the time, you're probably like, I look like a bag of shit. You're like, it's what everyone says though. They don't appreciate it. They don't appreciate it when they get there. And I suppose as well, like, you know, we all start out, like a lot of us start out when we're 15, 16 and lifting weights at home. I start off in my bedroom lifting, you know, a weeder set and, you know, crappy, rusty set of weights. And, you know, everybody starts out like, and, you know, they don't know where it's going to take them. And, you know, I suppose some people last the test of time, some don't. I've had a conversation multiple times with guys who are kind of, you know, like I suppose further along even than I am, competing 15 years, but further than that again. And the one thing they all say is, like I started in 2008, and if I look back and see my first 3 years of competing, so up to 2011, who's still around? I can count on this hand who's still around. As far as the age group I came up with, so when I was a teenager / early 20s, how many of them are still around? It's about five. It's about five. And Conor McGee is one of them. Blessing is one of them. You know, these guys are still about, like, a lot of the names will come to my head now straight away, but they're still about. David Bourne from Dublin. Those guys still are doing it. So same age group, but I suppose the reality is that if you love it, you'll be able to do it for a long time. And people will always ask you, as I'm sure they've asked you, like, when are you going to stop? And my answer is like, when I'm in the coffin. Is that it's because, you know, for me, like, people can ask me, like, what does bodybuilding mean to me? Like, and like, it means a lot to me. And it means much more than, like, you know, selfies on Instagram or any kind of crap like that. It's much deeper than that. And I love it, and I'll always love it. And that'll never go away. But it's just, obviously, we all have a timeline in which we can be at our best. And that's the only difference.
Oh, yes.
You know, that's, you can't change that.
I've came and gone from bodybuilding. I've drifted on into bodybuilding, competitive bodybuilding over the years. And it's all strength training and the love of being strong has always brought me back into bodybuilding.
Yeah.
But even when I wasn't actually competing, I was always my hand at something else. You know, I was drifting in and out. I think it's genetic, it's in me, and the same as yourself probably. It's ingrained in our system, and I don't think it's even bodybuilding per se. It's the struggle that it gives us, and the satisfaction of beating it. You know,
it's definitely like, it's like this. It's a satisfaction of pushing yourself in any way possible. Yes. And I firmly believe that if you have that work ethic in bodybuilding, that you will have that work ethic in your career. You should have it anyway.
Oh, yes.
You'll have that work ethic in your education, all those things, you know. You should. Not everyone does, but you should. But I think it's bodybuilding has been slated in the last couple of years, as in terms of in the media, social media, people who have competed themselves, namely female competitors mainly. They have slated bodybuilding, like talking about every negative, everything that's wrong with it, everything that is terrible, all these things. But very, very rarely do people celebrate it. It's not celebrated enough. And I'm not talking about like, oh, everybody should have a six-pack and you'll be happy. It's what it can do for you, how much it can empower you, how much it can change your life, how much you can actually, you know, impact other people as well. That's not spoken about enough. And I think it's all surface level bullshit that people focus on. But, you know, I think just one of these things that people have a bad experience once, and then they're left with a sour taste in their mouth. And I think that's what I've seen with people who
they don't learn. They don't learn.
No, they don't learn. They're closed-minded, and you know, they see it like, oh, they want to tell everybody that, like, oh, get into bodybuilding and you'll end up with like an eating disorder, this, that, body dysmorphia, blah, blah, blah. You will end up with those things if you have those things coming into it. Like, it won't help those things most likely. Like, if you have an issue and you push yourself to an extreme, the issue will also be pushed to an extreme. Don't expect it not to. And I think if you go and do a prep thinking that the prep is going to make you happier in terms of it's going to fix all your problems that you had before, it probably won't. And I think that's what some people think it's going to do.
Yeah. for me, bodybuilding's brought a strong work ethic that I've brought into other parts of my life.
Yeah.
You know, I left school sort of well educated, but I never applied my education to other lines of work. You know, I kind of got sucked into weightlifting as soon as my secondary education stopped, and I realized I was really good at weightlifting. So it suffered my what I wanted. Well, I had other plans that I wanted to do, but I thought, no, I'm going to go straight into my weightlifting and be a great weightlifter, and I did. You know, within 7 months of picking up weights, I was junior world champion.
Yeah.
And then I went on.
Very successful.
But it didn't bring fortune.
Lucrative.
You know, it didn't bring me money. You know? But that road has brought me a lot more things that money couldn't buy. My friends that I have, and the respect from the community that encircles me. You know, you can't buy them things.
No, definitely. Yeah. Do you find it funny where, like, I think a lot of social media is to blame for this a little bit, but a lot of people will show off the things they have. They'll really want to show off the stuff they have. Like
oh, but listen,
my car, look at my house, and it's like,
but in bodybuilding too, some of the most successful people are the best show offs.
That's true. That is true. Like,
I think I'm a natural show off.
Yeah, well, like that is true. But what I think is that I suppose that's great and all. But in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years time, did you do anything to cement a legacy or leave an actual, like, make a big difference, or were you just here to collect money? And like, that's the ultimate, like, in my opinion, that's the ultimate question of are you passionate about it? And obviously you need a certain amount of money to, you know, get things done. But I think a lot of people are just chasing money and they don't love it, and they don't last.
You know personally, I don't make no money from bodybuilding whatsoever. Even from coaching, I don't make no money. Yeah. And if I do whatever money that I could potentially make from it just now, it wouldn't make me happy. I really enjoy my work, my day job. I'm a manager for Royal Mail. Yeah. And I really enjoy that, the challenges that brings every day.
It's fulfilling, like.
Yep. And my legacy in bodybuilding going forward now, all right, I've got videos on YouTube and people can go and look at them. And I've got I'm in the NABBA Bodybuilding Hall of Fame or whatever. Yeah. But my legacy going forward is helping like you, Ian, and other people now, and still making sure they don't make all the mistakes I've made in my bodybuilding career. Yeah. You know, and fast tracking them as best possible to their own successes, and then being able to go, I helped them. You know, that's a great thing to be able to say that. You know, one of the best things I go back to when you competed at the Irish Muscle Contest. You know, and people not slating, but people said there's no way you can make 80 kilos. Yeah. When you stepped out on stage, and I was in the audience, and then listening to the reaction of everybody around me, holy Christ! No, that was one of the best feelings for me ever. You know, and then to actually go on and be successful in the competition, it was class. Yeah. You know, and not just you, for everybody else that I've helped over the years too. Yeah. To stand and hear I don't take credit, because you guys really ultimately do all the work at the end of the day. You know, and we're chatting about you called me your coach there when we come on. That's nice to hear that. But I'm just filling in any gaps. You construct maybe 99% of your diet, you know, from the scratch, and your own training. And I just go, no, don't do this. Try this. No, do you know what I mean?
You can call it mentor, you can call it coach, but I'd still like I look at it as coach, because I just put it, I don't know, maybe I put that tag in it because that's what I consider. Even, and I think people actually do ask me, like, you know, how does that work? And I say to them, it's like, it's a synergistic relationship, symbiotic relationship. Yeah. And to be honest, like, it actually works really well because of that, because there's zero stress. It flows really well. It's really easy going. And, you know, we're never at loggerheads. Like, we're never like, you know, I fucking told you wrong. It's like, we're like, okay, like, because you're able to give me your logic behind what you think. I can give you logic behind what I think. And then we have a discussion and we go, all right, okay, look, let's go with that. And because of that, it works really well. And I would probably have a really hard time working with a highly opinionated, like, coach that's like, like, do this because, and they don't give you a reason, like, just do this. It's like, because the thing is, I almost know too much for my own good. And like, I'd be like,
and
is
that goes back
bullshit.
to earlier on in the conversation. That goes back to that there's too much information for people to cut through. And that's the value of a good coach.
Oh yeah.
That's the true value of a good coach.
Yeah.
You know,
it can be kind of like, and I talk to clients, like everyday clients who are just like looking to lose weight, looking to get in good shape as well. Even to them, like, it doesn't matter what level you're at. It's that too much of a good thing is a bad thing kind of thing. And there's like the difference you said there when you started as opposed to now is there's so much information. And one thing I always, and I don't mean to crap on people, but one thing I do see is with, for example, younger guys that are going into the gym, is that, like, I'm all for people logbooking. That's fantastic. That's progressive overload. I'm all for people applying science to their training. But what's almost happened is it's become a bit sterilized for a lot of people. They're like, I look at their training and I go like, that looks
it's
boring.
super rigid.
That's so boring. So boring. It's like the effort level is like specific. You need 6.7% RPE and never go above that. And it's very like, it doesn't look fun. And that's one thing, like, and people's definition of fun is different. Believe me, my definition of fun.
Do you remember coming up the pro gym?
Oh yeah.
And I can't remember what it was. I can't remember what exercise. I think it was like we're doing front raises and the cables.
Oh,
and you're like, how many reps we're doing? Right, we'll go for 12 reps here. So I had done my set, and then it dawned on me that 12 reps for you was very easy.
Yeah.
So like, and I think maybe you were borderline going to put it down. I'm like, no, don't stop.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Keep going. Like 30, 40 reps.
Yeah. But why would you stop? Why? Where's like, and people are doing that with their logbooks. They're meeting the required target, and that's a cut off next exercise.
Yeah. I think they're putting a kind of a glass ceiling on things a little bit. And no, look, this is just what I see in general in a lot of gyms. But I think you can't sterilize it. You can't sterilize it too much. You need to have I always see bodybuilding as a science and an art, and it is those two things. And as much science as you want to throw in things, and I do use obviously a scientific approach to the way I do things, and we do as well. The art side of things is where the fun is. That's to me where the fun is. Like, that's where there's so much variance, and that is the part that makes it really, really just interesting. And I think we had a chat before we came on about training, and like, some people will avoid deadlifts. They'll never do deadlifts because they see deadlifts as being obsolete for training back. And you and I know some people with absolutely massive backs that deadlift.
Yep.
You're one of them.
The best. Dorian Yates.
Yeah.
Deadlifter. Ronnie Coleman. Huge deadlifter. Jesus, all the top guys that even people with really aesthetic physiques. Flex Wheeler back in the day was a great deadlifter.
Chris Bumstead fucking deadlifts. He's the men's physique Olympia.
And if you look at it from the back when he's deadlifting, he's thick as fuck. Yeah. Sorry for cursing. Forgot myself. He's one of my favorite physiques at the moment. Chris.
You can. I've kind of come across people who are very like black and white. It's like, oh, I don't deadlift. I was like, or I don't squat. Squatting is like, why would you squat when you can use the XY machine? I was like, that's not the answer either. I was like, 100%. I'm not against machines. Some machines are fantastic and they hit exactly what you need to hit. And the feel in them is amazing. The mechanics are amazing. But I think that's actually people trying to be so open-minded that they're like super open-minded about their training, that they're like, I'm implementing this kind of way and that. And really they actually become so open-minded, so far one way, that they're actually extremists and they become closed-minded to the stuff that worked, that has a track record.
And then it comes down to another part of that conversation where we have guys going, why wouldn't you do X, Y, and Z exercise? Because the top guys, they're genetic freaks.
Yeah,
they're genetic. They can do that because they're genetic freaks. Yeah. Well, how do you know that you're not a genetic freak if you don't do them exercises? or follow them programs. When I was younger, I didn't have a choice, because all we had was like Flex magazine or back in the day. So we were copying the routines out of the magazines.
And they were bullshit.
And they were bullshit.
Yeah, they were.
But we believed in them. And you applied them with like 100% effort every time you hit the gym.
Yeah.
And all right, maybe they were bullshit, but because the belief was there and you were training with the intensity, you grew.
Yeah, you throw enough mud at the wall, you know, it's the knock off the wall thing. But what were you? Consistent.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the diet was tight, and your recovery was tight.
Yeah.
And there was a period there for maybe 6 months, and I was training 6 days a week and still doing like no recovery work on the Sunday.
Yeah.
And I was training flat to the mat. I mean, like, there was no gas off the pedal when I went to the gym. I was giving it 100% every time, and I was sore every time. And that's that period that I truly did grow. You know, like people's overtraining. I didn't know what overtraining was. Maybe I was, but my body was just like a sponge. I was just growing and growing, sore every day. I was sore from the previous workout 2 weeks past.
Yeah.
But I was still going to the gym and pushed because I believed that's what needed to be done, and it worked.
I've seen as well, like, you know, we talked about Darren and Darren's progress that he made, and one thing I noticed was that the training was just like super. It was really high quality training. It was actually very high volume training. I remember, if I remember when he posted it, but for that year or 2 year period, like I'm assuming he trained probably 5-6 days a week with very high volume. And even as well, like your own kind of thoughts on training. Like, people will vary throughout the years what kind of approaches they take, and of course it all builds muscle. Like any resistance will build muscle. You know, if you have a novel stimulus, it builds muscle. Yes, but I'd always tell people is that it's not black and white. High volume, low volume, whatever like you want to throw, they all are tools in the toolbox. You know, and like you said, they're like, fucking 12 is easy, go for 40. You know, sometimes a little bit of extra volume can be a good thing to spur on growth. You know,
this training block that we're doing for this show is primarily volume work.
It's more volume than I've done, I think, ever, actually, to be honest. And
because I felt coming into the prep that we were a little behind. You know, so I've thrown volume in there to expedite your muscle growth.
Yeah.
Minimize risk to injury, because we can't afford no injuries.
Yeah.
I already was aware of your pec and shoulder problem, or rear delt problem. So I wanted to minimize that kind of stuff. So that's why I went the volume route this time. And it's working.
And I had done, and I like preface it with the fact that like I have done like a lot of heavy chest pressing for years, like a lot of heavy chest pressing, heavy shoulder pressing, like 70 kilo dumbbell overhead, like seated press, like as in like routinely, you know, and you know, I never really did a lot of flat barbell bench press, because that's what caused the injury in the first place years ago. But I would do a lot of heavy dumbbell and Smith machine, slight incline or high incline. So like I've that foundation built. My chest is pretty big, and it's one of those things that body part can stand with. It will stay there with stimulation. It doesn't need to be absolutely toasted, but the higher volume approach was needed for that. And the other thing too was that even for, you know, let's say back or for legs, for example, like I would generally be kind of lower volume, heavier for legs, lower volume, heavier for a lot of back. But I found the last 2 weeks switching over to the high volume fantastic. I found it really good, very good.
But we've coupled that this time too with a higher carb approach as well.
Yeah,
so I found from my experience that higher carb and higher volume work really good together. So, and that's the approach, and that's the line we're taking. So, but this week coming, as I said, we're going to review how we look at the weekend. Well, tomorrow, Sunday morning. Yeah. That's when we do our check-ins, and based on that, we'll develop the strategy for the week ahead. Yeah. But I think we start carb cycling from this weekend.
I also people like the first first phase. You think of a prep in phases, and
Yes.
like this phase is a breeze. Simple.
but,
Because I think you're
but it's brought a
mentally.
lot of change very, very
Yeah,
quickly.
massive. Like
Yep.
I actually am looking forward to sending you the check-in photos on Sunday, because this week is actually there's a big difference again this week. But it's seen massive change, which is great. Like that's ideal situation. And there's a saying that like you know you're shredded when you're suffering. It's not necessarily. It depends on your approach from the start up to the point that you get to the very end. Like if you, like you said earlier on, if you throw all your tools, at everything at the very start, you will suffer because there's nothing left to do but suffer. But I think there's always going to be a certain level of suffering, to get in good shape. But it just depends on, I suppose. You remember, like you probably heard the analogy of like it's like landing a plane, and
That's
like
that's exactly where I was going to say. You're
yeah,
saying so from I always go back, look at the date of the competition, right? And then I give a fair assessment based on the pictures that you give me at the start and where your diet is and where you're training. And then I road map week by week. And
yeah,
I actually write notes down for how I expect you to look at set points
yeah,
in the prep. So at the moment, I did tell you last week that I did feel, well, not last week before,
yeah.
that I felt we were a little bit behind.
Mm.
And then from the space of a week, we a slight adjustment, and you just accelerated. I thought you leapt over by maybe 2 or 3 weeks within a week.
Yeah.
So and we're bang on target again now. So I'm very, very happy. But sorry, go ahead.
But isn't it that, like I always tell people, it's that analogy is good because when you're up in the air in the plane, like you could actually veer off track, and there's loads of room for moving things. But as you get closer to the airport and the angles get tighter, there's less room to move things.
Yes.
And it becomes more precise and even more precise and more precise. And then as you're kind of lining up to get to the runway, it's super precise. You have to be like within, a couple of feet of precision. Whereas when you're out in the open, you can be a couple of miles of precision. And that's the biggest thing for a prep, is that everything gets more precise as you get more dialed in, like, and
that's why you need a co-pilot.
You need a co-pilot, yeah. You need a co-pilot. You can't
but
do autopilot.
You can be my co-pilot. I'm the captain. I'm guiding the plane.
Yeah. So yeah, it's the prep is going fantastic so far. And obviously there's a prep the series accompanying this podcast, and this podcast obviously was to kind of set up the series, which hopefully you'll get the chance to watch on YouTube. The channel is McGarry Coaching. If you're listening back on this, but that's where we stand now, and we'll hopefully touch base in a few weeks up in Derry maybe, and get a live one recorded in Derry hopefully, and we'll get a bit of a training session up there as well, and get that that canned as well on a video.
While I mightn't be on the podcast all the time,
yeah,
if anybody wants to send any questions in and they think I can give you some help or feedback on them, I'm open to that. So anybody that wants to post them, they're more than welcome.
It's Bourne_Billy, isn't it?
No, well, if they want to post them to your channel,
you can post on the channel, yeah.
Yep, and so I can give feedback on it or whatever.
Yeah. And I'll leave the link for your Instagram and Facebook there, just under your picture. So you'll see it just now, right there. So if you need to get in touch with Billy, or if you want to get in touch, you are taking on clients, but you're very specific in who you take on.
Very specific.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So
I really don't want to bring people on that's all experienced. I can't afford to give a lot of time that way by doing one-to-one instruction. So if it's people that a little bit of maybe show time behind me already, and they're looking for just a bit of guidance, they kind of themselves along, I'm sort of open to that. Okay. Perfect. I probably if you check out me on social media, I don't tend to post much at all. Yeah. But I do give feedback and one that DM.
Honestly, if you're looking for good advice, just ask. 100%. You're a wealth of knowledge.
And if it comes across as very basic, it's because that's what you need.
Yeah. Yes, keep it simple, stupid.
Keep it simple, stupid. And that 9 times out of 10 is the case, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a lot more. I can go very technical if you wish,
Of course,
but most people don't need that.
No. Billy, I really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll get a training session in together soon, and we'll get it on the channel as well.
I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks.